Are we ready?
You ready?
Are we ready? We went in for induction on the 23rd of March. We'd packed everything to kind of have a little hospital stay. In the room, we set up some fairy lights. We turned the lights down really low. I had some kind of cushions from home, pictures of the dog, pictures of my family around, just to try and take away that like clinical element really and make me feel as calm as possible. We had an amazing midwife who'd said to us really early in the process, like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to be in the room? Do you want me to just check on you every now and again? And we said, for now, we're okay with just pop your head around the door, pop the monitor on whenever you need to, but you know, we feel quite happy to just carry on as we are. We got to 9 centimetres and were told, as we're kind of approaching 10 centimetres, we don't want the baby to randomly pop out in the middle of this induction suite, so we'll move you around to the labour ward, which was absolutely fine. You know, perfectly happy to do that. So we took all our lights down, we got ourselves ready. I will say, switching from this lovely calm environment that we'd created for ourselves and then going into a very clinical labour room was a big shift. So we moved around to the labour room and we again had a fantastic midwife, lovely. Again, we're asked the question, which really surprised me that anybody was even asking this question, but it was fantastic, of kind of, what do you want me to do? You know, I never expected the midwives to actually say, you know, what do you want me to do here? Do you want me to be next to you? Do you want me to be really hands-on? Do you want me to just be in the background? So again, we said, we're okay for now. We're quite happy to just keep breathing through these contractions and just kind of wait it out really. That midwife, whose name was Barbara, who's just has a special place in my heart forever, she said, do you want to put your fairy lights back up? We can turn the lights down low. I'll keep my light on just in the corner so I can see what I'm doing, but everything else, you know, you can make the room as you want it to be. So I'd had an exam and was told it was 10 centimetres, and then Barbara was due to take a break. So we had a different midwife come in to cover that break period, and we definitely didn't have the same rapport with this midwife. I was aware that it was only for a short period of time, but the switch in person kind of, I think, threw me for a loop a little bit. And this midwife was very different to Barbara. She was quite matronly and made me feel a bit like a naughty school kid sometimes. It was kind of, we'll do this and we'll do that, and you're kind of a bystander in the process. Whereas before, I very much felt like I was the one that was in control. I knew that I didn't want to be laid on my back, because it was difficult for baby to descend down the birth canal. I suggested, can we try going over the back of the chair so my pelvis is nice and open and baby can just hopefully naturally just slide down the canal and out she comes, happy days. The midwife was very reluctant to do this, and she used some quite coercive language, I've realised in hindsight, that definitely again affected kind of where I was headspace wise in that moment. So she'd use things like, I'm going to allow you to push like that for 15 minutes instead of, let's try this for 15 minutes and then, you know, we'll see what happens. You know, those little bits of language probably to a midwife don't seem like anything. There's just, you know, it's just the way they speak to their patients. But when you're in that position and you're super vulnerable, the most vulnerable state I think I've ever been in my life, to have someone kind of say, I'm going to allow you to do this, just makes you go, oh, okay, so I'm now not kind of in control of this situation. I'm being permitted to do something's happening to me, as opposed to me kind of being in the driving seat of this. I think I'd mentioned to the midwife a couple of times, I don't feel any urge to push right now. So I said, can we just give it a little bit longer? The contractions are reasonable. This midwife was really reluctant to do that and said 10 centimetres is when we push, full stop. The midwife then told us that it was time to try pushing on my back, which we'd said numerous times we didn't want to do. We went in, feet in stirrups, give it hell, kind of red in the face. I pushed so hard that I burst a blood vessel in my eye, so no one can say that I wasn't pushing hard enough. We were pushing for, I think it was about 40 minutes, and after kind of 30 minutes of that really intense, prolonged pushing, the midwife said she wanted to get the consultant, and the consultant came in, gave us a little scan of baby. We'd both discussed beforehand that if anything took a turn and we couldn't have the baby naturally, just vaginally by herself, we would ask for a C-section. The consultant was very against this idea, and I'm still undecided as to I'm not quite sure why that was. The reason she gave me at the time was it will affect future pregnancies. Now, I'm 10 centimetres dilated and I'm thinking, I'm just kind of focusing on the baby that's in there right now and getting that out. I may not even have any other children. So for that to be the deciding factor between whether or not I'm permitted to have a C-section was a little kind of strange to me. We agreed to try forceps delivery. I will say the team did try and keep a nice calm kind of like a little team of swans. Everything looked nice and calm as they came in the room, but I could see them in the corridor kind of furiously moving machines around and talking to each other and having all bits of paper out for me to sign and things like that. So the staff in surgery were amazing. The anaesthetist, and I think this is another point that I'll always remember from my birth, my anaesthetist made a point of saying to my partner, you can hold her hand and talk to her, because everybody else had just been like, okay, sit there, like out the way, shh. We're very busy, just wait, you just sit there. The forceps delivery itself wasn't massively straightforward, so we were attempting to use the forceps to pull her out for 35 minutes, so there was quite a lot of pulling and tugging. I couldn't feel any of this at the time, and nobody warned me that baby might have some marks on her face. So when Celeste came out, she had huge bruises down her cheeks from the forceps. And we then went round to recovery. Everybody just had a minute. We had the world's best toast. I'll remember that toast for the rest of my life, like everybody always says, but tea and toast, just absolutely fantastic. And then we all just needed to come round a little bit. So we kind of recovered on the ward a little bit, and then we were discharged the same day by about 10 p.m. I think we made it home. The whole birth experience, funnily enough, on paper would be the exact opposite of what I wanted. We had a forceps birth, induction, stayed on the labour ward, everything that I wouldn't have wanted on paper, but we still had a really positive experience. And that's partly down to the staff at the Rosie, some of which were absolutely fantastic. The staff that did kind of give us not the best experiences, it's only kind of small changes I think that would need to happen to really change that experience for lots of women. And ultimately I think it's about autonomy. So even if you're not in control of birth, which you aren't, feeling like you are has been the absolute kind of mainstay throughout our experiences. If I feel like I'm in control, we've had a positive experience.